Michael Kinirons, thanks for talking to Film Ireland.
Lovely to be here.
Yeah, you're a good friend of Filmbase. You did teach on their masters.
I thought you actually.
A bit of backstory. I first met you in 2007. I was in transition. You were doing work experience, and you were mixing the sound on your short film Tree Climber.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So I remember. Yeah, you came into us in. We were out in Ardmore, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Ardmore Sound. Yeah. So we go back a long way, John.
Yeah, no, but
so be nice to me.
I turned out doing the. I was on the Filmbase Masters digital filmmaking. You were a screenwriting lecturer, and the week after you finished teaching us screenwriting, Strangerland got greenlit.
Yeah.
So we were all like thrilled, and I remember seeing you one day at the top of Grafton Street, and I just shook your hand very quickly, just saying congratulations, and then went off. And so I haven't spoken to you since, but I was just I just wanted to congratulate you about Strangerland.
Thank you. Yeah, it's funny you guys say you're being around that time was it was a very exciting time, I suppose, and you finally go, this is going to happen, and it was great, and everyone was really, it was just lovely that people around Filmbase are also congratulating. It's just everyone's in it together, so it was great.
It's good support for each other. I'm just wondering what did it feel like when it got greenlit, and it's people like Nicole Kidman and Hugo Weaving have signed up to it. What does that feel like?
Yeah, it's a little surreal, I suppose, to be honest. Part of it doesn't feel, I think, like a lot of Irish filmmakers and writers and directors, I've been doing it quite a while, I've been in around the industry for quite a while, and you're just making your own stuff, you're concentrating on that, and suddenly this project kind of landed on me, and then the next thing, I work on this script, and the next thing, about a year and a half later, it's Green Liberty's cast, and it's a dream come true, and it's going to open doors and all that stuff, but it doesn't kind of feel real at some level. And on another level, it feels kind of, Jesus, this is a great relief. You're going, actually, I could have a career in this, So it was a really exciting time.
How did it come together? Am I right in saying that McDara Kelleher was involved and had introduced you to Fiennes, who'd been writing the script, or?
So Mac had met the director Kim Farrant in Berlin, and Kim had this project. Basically, it was her kind of idea that she had worked on with Fiona, and they got it to a level, but they could never get really the funding, and it sort of had been abandoned, and they had moved on from the Australian producers. They had a script, but it wasn't really kind of going anywhere, and Fiona had felt that she was where she could take it, so Matt came on board, finally got the rights, and I had worked with him a few times before, and often I would do he would send me scripts just if he was thinking of optioning them, and I would do notes on them for what I thought of them.
Okay.
So he had sent me the script, just when he was thinking about an option, because it had definitely had something in it, but it needed a bit of work, and so I'd written this kind of 15-page half diatribe, half kind of, this is amazing, but it's so far off what it should be, and then about a year later he got the rights to it, and then he got a small bit of money from the film board, and I got the sort of gig out of it that way, I think.
So was it originally intended that you would be giving feedback on the script?
No, it was just the kind of way it kind of, I think Mac realised, because I had a vision for what the project could be, and we'd known each other, and he sort of felt that I was the right person to do it then when he finally got his hands on it. So that kind of came out that way. And let's be honest, I think probably because I was at that coming up stage, and they had only a limited amount of development funding, they weren't going to be able to get a bigger screenwriting name, to be honest. So it was a punt in the dark for everyone. Like, in terms of, for Mac, it was just like he was trying to get this project back off the ground, and it was a shot in the dark. Yeah, to say for me, it was a chance to do something really interesting. That I kind of really pretty strong sense of how I could make it work, but you just didn't know if there was anything going to come out of it, so that's how it worked.
Well, I mean, you have all these big names involved, and you're shooting in Australia. Did you go down to Australia at all and work with any of them?
Yeah, I did. I got to go down I was there for about 2 months in total. So amazingly, we had 3 weeks rehearsals, which is really rare.
That is so rare. You had that much time to.
Yeah, I mean, and kudos to Kim again for insisting on it. So it was great. So I flew down the week before, and then we worked with the actors interrogated the script really, really strongly, and it was an amazing experience for me to get it was just me, the director, and the actors in a room together for 3 weeks, working really closely on. So it was more like almost like working in an theatre tradition, in terms of really working it.
And like, what kind of questions would they ask you? Like, could you give them guidance on how to approach the scene, or is that like the director's turf?
Well, I mean, it's a bit of both. I mean, I think what you want to do is with a film like this, it's quite look, it's a mystery thriller, and it's got hopefully a strong plot, but really the characters are you're hoping are very real and very complex, and they've a lot of stuff going on. So, and the kind of way I was hoping to write it was that you reveal information slowly, so it's a sort of slow burn. So there's a lot of, it's all about what's not said and what's going on in between, So it's about interrogating that space that's going on, all the kind of what's going on between the characters and what are they thinking. And so that process, only by you work a scene that way, you're going to get, for them, they're going to start to inhabit the characters, they're going to understand what's going on, but also they're going to bring ideas and stuff that's going to really elevate it. And particularly in terms of just language as well, like obviously I'm writing in Dublin, and the sense of Australian language, but there's certain colloquialisms, certain things and certain ways of saying things that they bring that just really helps, so all that process is really important. I think it's really important.
And what is the process like, specifically working with a co-writer who's already been developing the story, and how do you work with them?
Well, it was very much me on my own. I think so Fiona was happy to she had sort of felt like she had got it to where she could take it, and so she was happy to step away from it. And as I say, the project kind of had been, to an extent, it was Kim kind of driving it forward at that stage, because it had pretty much fallen apart. So it was like bringing in a whole new writer. So, I think certainly it's not an ideal position to have another writer come in and rewrite some stuff. But I think in this, Fiona was kind of happy to step away. She, and then I took it on completely. So it was me on the project.
So it is kind of working separately, but as long as there's a good meshing of the sensibilities.
Yeah, I think that's the thing is I suppose it was just like, it feels like it's the meeting in two minds, although it was we never worked together. So it's kind of like when I read the script, it felt like it was a project I would have written myself. I think that's why I felt I could do it. It was a world that I understood.
This is my kind of thing.
Yeah, it felt very much, it felt like it was exactly what I was looking for my own first feature, to be honest. So that's why it was kind of like very much like the kind of shorts I had made. And I think that was another reason why Mac and the film board felt I was kind of a good fit for it. So I kind of felt like I understood what Fiona and Kim were trying to get to, but maybe a bit of outsider's perspective was needed, and I was able to take it in a sort of slightly different direction that they were maybe a bit too close to it to see, or whatever. It's one of those kind of things.
And I suppose. I was going to ask about what you meant by overly strong plot. Like, is that a bad thing for a plot to be too strong, or is that too much going on? Or
no. I mean, I just think that for me, I like films that have complex, real, three-dimensional characters that are, what is a character-led, but that have also got a strong enough plot that there's tension, there's real dramatic tension carrying you through. So no, I think there always has to be that balance. I suppose there tends to be it's almost like a genre in itself. The sort of more, if you want to say, character portrait, which has not a lot of plot, but there's a lot of emotional tension and stuff. But I like it for a cinematic experience, a strong sense of audience being really properly engaged and following through.
I agree, because it seemed like there was good pacing to this movie, when I imagine with another director there couldn't have been. I mean, is pacing something you get a sense of in the writing of it, or is it like, does that come together through editing and other things?
I think it's a mix. It's a mixture of both. I think what you're trying to do from the writing side of things is to keep the audience hooked in with dramatic questions and kind of keep them going. Obviously first what's going to happen next, but just caring about the characters, rooting about them, fearing for what's going to happen, but just kind of hooked in with a specific little questions about what's going on with this situation, what's going on with that, and that's how you propel things forward. And then in terms of it's just about thinking about how the sequences rise and fall, and how you build little climaxes, and how you're constantly building the tension. That's from my point of view. And then in terms of the edit, it's more, I suppose, music and all that sort of pacing as well. It's a rewriting process again. You know?
How do you keep that going? I mean, there was one example I liked from Strangerland where they decide it's Nicole, Kidman and Joseph Fiennes, and their children go missing. So the whole scene where it just shows the missing poster on a photocopier. And then cut straight to the search. I mean, that's such an efficient way of getting the information across. So was stuff like that in the script, where you're keeping in mind just how you don't need a scene where they then go taping the posters up on lampposts. You just kind of go straight through it.
I think maybe that's, I suppose, having trained as a director, I think that's probably where I have a bit of an advantage in terms of these things, because I think in terms of how it's going to be edited, in terms of how...
Or how much you have to shoot, you just get that one shot of the photocopier and then that's that.
Yeah.
Get the audience knows what's happening there.
So it's just about being efficient with that kind of exposition, and then also, how you build the tensions in those scenes, So
that's a good way of keeping the pace and the momentum sort of going.
Yeah, but I think also what you have to have is that if you want to say where something like Strangerland, what was necessary to really build tension is you have to know there has to be a ticking clock, and the ticking clock is, this kind of 4 or 5 days of these kids are going to die if we don't find them. And that then gives you a context for tension, that gives you a context to build, and everything else is because all the way through it that end point is looming. So that gives you a great then, framework to build on, basically.
And what's the balance between sustaining mystery and then sort of satisfying people's curiosity? Because on the one hand, the ending is ambiguous, but on the other hand, there's a plot thread early on where they keep making veiled references to something the daughter did in a previous town, and then about 25 minutes in, it is revealed what she did, and I was kind of happy it was, because it was sort of, the mystery was sustained for long enough, where it was curious, and it was the kind of right amount of shock from it, that it was a good time to reveal it in the story. So how do you sort of gauge those kind of things when you want to leave something as a mystery, and when is the right time to reveal it?
Yeah, I think that's sort of in the development, that's trial and error in terms of, I think it's like that piece of elastic string, or elastic band that you stretch it and stretch it and stretch it until it breaks because people's suspension of disbelief goes or whatever else. So you just want to get to that point where it's taut, and you're withholding enough information, but you're also keeping people engaged in other ways that they're willing to keep going with the film. So there's a slow burn. In terms of an ending, well, that's a great, for me, that was a constant conversation, with producers and directors in terms of finding that need for closure, enough closure that there's emotional closure, there's a lot of other closure maybe that, and I don't want to give any spoilers, but I suppose that if you have an ambiguous ending, that you need closure. I mean, very much very big.
On some level, like the emotional arc, the character.
You have to have some level. You can't just leave people with nothing. And it's really important to have that kind of that sense of closure for an audience, that they're not going out scratching their heads and feeling completely frustrated. But it's a tricky one to balance with this one. Absolutely, I felt it was very, very tricky. And there's always going to be people who feel they've got not enough closure, and there's people who feel like they have, I think.
And when it comes to character, what's the key to writing a character that isn't necessarily likable? I mean, I'm thinking of Joseph Fiennes' character. I feel like with the wrong actor, he would have been such a pain to watch. But obviously, with the right actor will convey everything that's going on with the character. But I suppose kind of a protagonist doesn't need to be sort of likable as such. But what's the trick to getting the balance right, where you can have them be flawed but still sympathetic, and you still want to see what happens to them? Yeah,
I mean, I think we're far too enthralled with this idea of likability in terms of, on that script stage. At the end of the day, there's so much of likability or what people will engage in.
You saw Whiplash, or Miles Teller's character in that. He's not the most likable guy, but he nor is he dislikable as such. He's just kind of flawed, and you still invested in what happens to him.
Yeah, but you invest because you understand and you can identify with his situation. I mean, that's one of the core tenets of cinema is that ability to, it allows you to be put in another person's subjectivity, another person's experience. So therefore, even if they can be deeply flawed and even deeply unlikable, morally ambiguous, all those things, if you understand what they want, why they want it, and you can identify with the emotional need behind it. So someone like Matthew, who's quite a repressed and quite, an angry character, but you can once you understand where that's coming from, you can understand why he's like that. Then you can go, okay, I'm with him. I can go on the journey with him. It's a massively important thing, But if you don't understand that, forget about it. It's not going to happen.
No, it's something I've been looking into more since doing a screenwriters course with Mary Kate Flanagan, the script reader. I was wondering, for someone like me who's starting out as a screenwriter, what's a good way of developing good daily writing habits and approaching projects you're working on?
Ooh, this is a tricky one. I don't know. I think it's really important. Like, I suppose in anything in this game, you learn by doing. So the more you do it, the better it is. I think just giving yourself, when you're starting off, I think it depends what you want to do in terms of. It depends what you want to do in terms of. If you just want to be a writer, then it's about looking at all the. Learning your craft, and learn your craft by writing more and more features. So learning, understanding structure, understanding genre, understanding all those things, and then I suppose going to enough movies yourself and seeing what works. Then it literally is just about. I mean, I'm not a great believer you have to write every day. I'm very much project by project. If I'm writing a project, I'll work every day on that project until I've finished, and then I may not write for a month or a week or 2 months, depends on when the next thing starts, But again, because I'm, trying to get the directing off the ground as well, it's slightly different for me. But I think mainly the thing is, find a routine that works for you. Find out and just find out mostly what your own identity as a writer is. I think that's the most important thing. What you're trying to say, what you think you have to give. What if you are gifted with comedy, stick with comedy, get really good with comedy before. Don't scatter gunning everywhere. I think it's really important to get clear identity of who you are as a writer and what you want to say and what kind of material is best suited to you.
Okay.
And then get expertise in it, because that's one of the problems, I think, is that people are always willing to, especially in Ireland, we like to begrudge and whinge, but you take responsibility for your own quality and get better.
And if you wanted to be a director, if like you're embarking on your first feature project as a director, what advice would you have for people?
Same, even more so in terms of it's really important.
Being specific about what kind of story you want to tell, that only you can tell, practice by doing.
Make as much stuff as you can. I think it's certainly easier now to pick up, equipment and stuff like that. But I think more important. Learning the techniques of filmmaking is pretty straightforward. It can happen pretty quickly, but the inner work, I think, is more important. Like, you look at, you don't get to be Lenny Abramson without, there's a huge amount of inner work to know who he is, the kind of, what he stands for, his principles aesthetically, his principles morally, they're all very strong, same with John Crowley. And so it's about, he is a very strong personality and persona as a filmmaker.
And I think he has gotten stronger with each film.
Yeah,
I think it is something that develops over the long term.
Yeah,
so he's had his Oscar nominations now and everything.
And self-confidence as well.
Well, you've had success with Strangerland now, so congratulations on it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for talking to us.
I look forward to seeing your work.